The big story that we're tracking, the International Olympic Committee's most powerful body is currently meeting in India. This is the first meeting of the IOC top brass in India in 40 years. Mumbai is playing host to the IOC Executive Board meeting, which has started. Will continue till the 14th of October, while the IOC session itself will be held between the 15th to the 17th of October. So what is this IOC session about and why is it so important? Well, the IOC session is the supreme decision-making body of the Olympic movement, from key appointments to the IOC picking a host city for the Olympics to adding new sports. All key decisions are taken at IOC sessions. How did India win the rights to host this landmark session? Well, an Indian delegation led by Neeta Ambani made a pitch at the 139th session in Beijing. Neeta Ambani is the first Indian woman to be elected an IOC member, and the delegation also included India's first individual Olympic gold medalist, Abhinav Bindra. Mumbai won the rights to host the event with 99% of the votes. So now more than 600 members of the sporting world's elite here in Mumbai. They represent 100 nations and over 50 sports. The session will be a landmark moment for Indian sports and a significant stepping stone towards India's aspirations of hosting the Olympics in the future. Speaking to CNBC-TV18, IOC President Thomas Bach had said the IOC would welcome India's bid to host the Olympics in the future. With over 100 medals at the recently concluded Asian Games, India is starting to emerge as a country with the potential and promise of becoming a sporting powerhouse. But we need the right policies, infrastructure development and financial assistance at the grassroots level. And if all of this is not enough, there is more reason to be excited about the IOC session in Mumbai. It's likely to decide which sports will be added to the Los Angeles Olympics in 2028. Cricket is in the shortlist along with 4 other sports. The final decision is likely in the week ahead. Well, to talk to us about the importance and the significance of the IOC session here in India, we're now joined by Abhinav Bindra, Olympic gold medalist and member of the Athletes Commission of the IOC. And we also have with us Ayaz Memon, senior sports journalist, Gaurav Kalra, sports analyst, and K Sriniwas Rao, group sports editor at Network 18. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us here on the program. Abhinav, to you first. Thanks very much to start with for stepping out to the meetings. I know you're in Mumbai for the IOC meetings as well. But, you know, you were part of the delegation led by Mrs. Ambani that actually pitched Mumbai as the host for the 141st IOC session. Explain to us the significance of this and what you hope will be the outcomes at the end of this.
Well, I think it is an important moment for the Indian Olympic movement. I think the session is happening in India after a gap of 40 years. You know, the whole of the Olympic world has descended down into Mumbai. I think it is important for both sides. I think for the IOC, for the Olympic movement, India is a very important market. It is the country with the largest population in the world and the most amount of young people of the world's population. So for them, it's very, very important. For India, I think it is also very important, with sport finally taking an important position in our lives, not just from an elite sporting point of view, but also from a point of view of how sport can actually shape our young society. I think for both sides, I think it is an important moment, and I do hope that this is a start of further engagement between the Olympic movement and India, and that the movement actually becomes stronger and helps shape the lives of many young Indians through the power of sport.
You know, Abhinav, speaking of further engagement, the cabinet minister, the union minister Anurag Thakur, has expressed India's aspiration of hosting the Olympics at some point in the future. And when I asked the IOC president Thomas Bach about India's aspiration, he said, well, our doors are wide and hearts are wide open. But what do you believe should be the way forward? Should we perhaps first focus on the Youth Olympics as a starting point before we aspire to host the Olympics?
I think that can be an option. I think, as you said, the Youth Olympics is also an interesting event, and I think that could be an interesting thing to really focus on, specifically if we want to develop sport in India. The Youth Olympics would ensure that there's more investment that will go into grassroots level programs, and maybe that is an interesting event to also look at. And of course, I think it is quite clear that at some point of time, India should host the Games. The only question remains is when.
Yes, that is the big question, isn't it? But on that, you know, the format has changed. As opposed to host cities fitting into the Olympic framework, it is now the other way around, or at least it's trying to be a little bit of a give and take. You know, the bid process has changed considerably as well. There are reforms that have been undertaken by the IOC to ensure that you're not left with white elephants as the hosts, and the cost overruns that we've seen in the past are somewhat improved upon. So from a, you know, Indian standpoint, the role, the relevance of perhaps hosting the Olympics in the future, Abhinav, what should we be biting into this?
Look, I think most importantly, we'll have to build a good project around the Games. The Games cannot be, as you rightly said, be an event which will leave us with white elephants. The Games have to make sense. The Games have to leave a legacy. The Games have to be sustainable. And the Games have to impact the lives of many young Indians. And it is important to keep all those considerations in mind when we, at whatever time we actually build our concept, because as you rightly said, that post the reform process, you know, you really have to build a sustainable sort of a project which, you know, which works. You know, there have been hosts in the past who've struggled after hosting the Games, but I think going forward, the crucial thing is to really build something which can leave a long-lasting legacy for generations to come.
Before I get the other panelists in on the conversation, I just want to talk a little bit more about the Olympic movement itself, Abhinav. And, you know, along with your foundation, as well as the Reliance Foundation, you've brought the Olympic education program here. You started with the state of Odisha, and you're hoping to take that forward as well. Explain to us what the mission is, what the vision is, what the aspiration is with the OVEP program.
Well, I think the mission of the Olympic Games is to make this world a better place through sport. While not all Indians are going to go to the Olympic Games or become Olympians, I do believe that the Olympic movement and Olympism can play an important part in building and shaping characters of every Indian. And with that, we launched the Olympic Values Education program in Odisha a year ago. 250 schools have participated in it. Over 200,000 kids have participated in it. And it's gone marvelously well. We've had 15,000 girls taking part in sport for the very first time in their lives. You know, we've made sport more inclusive. And children have just enjoyed sport for the sheer joy of playing sport, apart from enjoying the health benefits associated with sport, becoming physically literate, as well as building characters through sport. We've also launched the OVEP in Assam a few months ago, and now the Reliance Foundation has, of course, just signed off with the IOCs to start the program in Maharashtra. So I think it is absolutely wonderful to see the promotion of Olympic values in India, because I think that will leave a long-standing legacy for the Olympic movement in India.
Abhinav, I'll talk to you about the Athletes Commission. You are a member of that in just a second, but let me get KSR and Ayaz into the conversation as well, along with Gaurav. KSR, the big one that everyone is excited about here, speaking of future engagement with India for the Olympics program, is whether cricket will be included as part of the LA Games in 2028. What's your bet?
Well, I mean, it's great from a subcontinent perspective. For a long time, actually, cricket has been in a position where it was trying to see how it could become a part of Olympics at a larger level. And I think it's finally kind of out there. And India is cricket's biggest market. So from that perspective, it's great news for India as we make an attempt to try and see whether in future we're capable of hosting an Olympics at home. I think it's all coming together.
Well, it seems like it is all coming together. But Ayaz, you know, cricket possibly included as part of the Olympics program with LA playing host, and that decision is likely to be taken over the next few days as the meetings are underway in Mumbai. How significant a development is that likely to be?
Well, I think it's terribly significant. We've got about 1.5 billion, perhaps more than that, almost 2 billion people who follow this sport, albeit that largely they come from the subcontinent. But it is a massive sport now, and it's got global ramifications. The fact that, LA is considering introducing cricket for the 2028 Olympics tells you the outreach that cricket is enjoying now. It's being played in the US far more than it was ever thought possible. So I think that this is a giant step forward for cricket to go international, but it's also important for the international community to look at what drives India's passion. And of course, it's a very popular and very profitable sport in India. So I think there's mutual benefit for both, for the Olympic movement as well as for those who are part of the Olympic community to look at what is driving India.
Oh, absolutely. It will be mutually beneficial. The kind of eyeballs as well as the kind of revenue that cricket generates will certainly be a bonus and a plus for the Olympics as well. But Ayaz, leave cricket aside for just a second and let's talk about what Abhinav was mentioning, the fact that this really could potentially be an inflection point as far as India's sporting moment is concerned. We've just seen our largest haul as far as the Asian Games is concerned, crossing 100 medals. What are you most excited about? We're seeing this culture, the sporting culture start to develop, but what more do you believe we need to focus on to ensure that this is amplified from here on?
Well, I think really the seeds are sown at the grassroots level, isn't it? I mean, Abhinav touched on it. I think there is a self-belief which has come in. Indians are going in competing not for the sake of it, but they're competing to win accolades, to win medals, to earn the respect of the international community and achieving it. And I think somewhere it's also important that we remain very competitive at these international events, because that's where we've got a demographic advantage, a dividend that we can reap. We are a huge country, 140 crore. And if you have the base of the pyramid, which is wide and vast for people to get into sports, then you'll get a lot more people up the pyramid at the elite level. And that's where you will reap the benefits. And I think that needs to be done right from the grassroots upwards.
Yes, the focus needs to be on building out the pyramid, as you point out, and not just focusing on the elite athletes. But Gaurav, you're in Mumbai tracking the various meetings that are on. The executive board meeting has started today. What are you going to be watching out for?
Well, yes, I think that the cricket decision is obviously going to be the big headline from the session. But I think more importantly, over the next few days, we see what Abhinav referred to, the deeper engagement with the Olympic movement. And I think it's very important to emphasize that, Shereen, because India has always been a marginal Olympic nation. I think a lot of us remember that moment in 2008 when Abhinav won that gold medal, and that suddenly woke the world up to realize, all right, there are elite athletes that emerge out of India, because before that, it was a little bit of sort of hit and miss, mostly at Olympic Games, one medal here and there. And yes, there was that great hockey legacy, but individual sport, we were lagging behind. And now there is that much deeper engagement with the Olympic movement with an intention to build it from the grassroots upwards onto the elite stage. I think every elite athlete will tell you that that grand moment that happens, the kind that had happened with Abhinav in 2008, is really the culmination, or at least a significant sort of pit stop in what is a very lonely journey. And you need allies on that lonely journey when you make it from that grassroots level right up to the very elite. And at that basic ground level, we are starting to see a lot more initiatives that are taking shape. I mean, I've had the good luck to work on some of these programs at the foundation, at the Reliance Foundation myself. And, just to see the scale of the programs, I mean, one of the illustrations was Jyoti Yaraji. I think Srini and I went to the athletics academy that's been put up in Odisha with the Odisha government and Reliance Foundation together. And this was an athlete that was really on the outside of any kind of competitive level. And she's been nurtured along from that place to a point where she could have actually won gold medal at the Asian Games. And that is a journey that's painstaking. Yeah. It requires investment both financial, emotional, as well as from everyone around, from the support staff point of view. And I think that support that the athletes are getting is going to reflect in India's results in the years to come. So Abhinav's going to have a lot more company as an Olympic gold medalist, not just Neeraj.
Well, I don't think he's going to mind the company at all. In fact, I think he would encourage many more to join that elite club that he really founded. He was the founding member of. But, you know, Abhinav, on exactly that point that we heard there from both Gaurav as well as Srini, on building out this ecosystem, on getting together allies and the need for more public-private partnership. You know, we just talked about the Reliance Foundation. There's JSW that's done a fair amount of work as well in trying to build out the athlete ecosystem. You know, how do you see this public-private partnership moving forward? The government has also put schemes in place like the TOP scheme, etc. What's working and what do you believe now needs to be emphasized and prioritized?
Well, I think it is absolutely crucial to have this public-private partnership going to develop sport in this country further. But I think we have to start seeing sport finally from a different lens. So far, we only associate sport with winning and associate sport with our athletes doing well. And that, of course, is absolutely crucial and is important. But we have to see sport's larger goal. We have such a young society. We have to make our society healthier. How do we achieve that? We achieve that through sport. We have to build characters of our youth, drive youth in a positive way. What better way than sport to do that? So we really have to give more opportunities to young India to just play sport for the sheer joy of playing sport. When that starts to happen at a mass level, the medals become a byproduct of that process. So we really have to, as you said, go down to the base of the pyramid and really start investing in that. But that will require us to think long term, because it is not going to give us results overnight. It is a long haul. Everything in sport is long term. And this is a long-term investment, which I think needs to be done. And there can't be a better time than now.
Well, it is a long-term investment, but Abhinav is proof that it is a great return on investment, and we hope that we are going to see more, not just financial investments, but as Gaurav, Ayaz and Srini were pointing out, that really, you know, a system of creating resilience, of supporting athletes at the grassroots level and making that arduous journey a less lonely one. But gentlemen, we are going to come back to you over the next few days as the decisions start to come in from the IOC session, the 141st IOC session, which is currently underway in Mumbai. Thanks very much for joining us, and we wish each one of you the very best of luck. We are going to take a break here on CNBC TV 18. There's a lot more coming up. Don't go anywhere. We're back in a minute with more.